Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be Chosen's Corner, episode 9, and I'm actually going to be bringing Kizzle on again because he's got a lot of interesting things going on, and we have lots to talk about. Chosen's Corner is kind of a podcast-style video where I just sit down with somebody, shoot the breeze, talk some raid, talk some life, and Kizzle actually believes he had the coronavirus and went through a pretty crazy experience with it. So I'm going to be definitely bringing that up and discussing how that whole situation went down and kind of getting his thoughts on his experience and all that. And then him coming back to raid and being gone for 6 months and kind of getting some perspectives on all that type of stuff, kind of being gone for a little bit and coming back. Kizzle used to be one of the more consistent content providers out there for raid, took a long break and is now kind of trying to kind of get a foothold again and get back to work in the community and start putting out videos and content and stuff. So it's always a fun video when I sit down with a good friend of mine and chat for a bit. So yeah, let's get into it. Alrighty, and now I am joined by the man himself. What is up, Kizzle? How you doing?
What's up, man? How are you doing?
Hanging in there as much as I can during the quarantine. How's your quarantine life? What is your daily life kind of altered, or are you kind of going business as usual? Or
I mean, it's tough to say, man. I mean, it's definitely not business as usual. My usual business kind of has me on the airplane flying somewhere. Certainly I'm not doing any of that right now. So this is actually the longest period I've gone without traveling for work in like maybe my career. So honestly, I'm kind of like liking it because I'm playing a lot more video games. I'm like watching a lot more Netflix. I'm not working out as much, which sucks. But outside of that, dude, I mean, it's pretty chill. Yeah,
you see all those memes of like gamers being like, "We trained our whole life for this." Like,
yeah, it's not too bad for me, man. I feel bad like my I'm back in Charlotte, which is nice because I'm around my family and stuff, and we got a decent sized house, so there's room. Like my son can go upstairs and play video games. I can come down here and get work done. There's ways to navigate it. Whereas, like my boss, for instance, like we have like a morning meeting each morning, and like it's hilarious because at some point like his screaming kids are like running in the room, like. And I just kind of feel for him, man. Like, I don't know how big his place is, but it's not big enough to get the kids in their own little area, for sure,
Yeah.
So I kind of lucked out in that sense. My son can be up there playing Fortnite. He's in his own little world. And then, I can be down here working on whatever. I can do Zoom calls and Skype calls and all that. And it's not too bad,
Yeah, for sure. And I know you were gone from the raid community for a while, so maybe somebody's watching this video and they're saying, "Who the hell is this guy?" So
probably most of the people watching this video.
So kind of walk us through like what you used to do and if you're coming back and being active and all that.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I started out, man. I gotta think of how to put a date to it. We all were doing videos. I almost want to say this time last year.
Yep,
right?
yep. Yeah, we all started talking and kind of becoming friends, like you and me and Stu and Darth, and probably like in May of last year, about somewhere around there.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. Yeah. So basically, I'm sure we both remember it a little bit differently because that's just how it works when you're in your 30s, But basically, when Raid first came out, there was 4 main content producers, and it was you were the main one. You were kind of the trailblazer. Darth came over from Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and he was very consistent, put content up, all the time. And then Stu and then myself, so we were the core 4, if you want to call it that. Then I think it was, I don't remember which one of us started doing Twitch first. It might have been Darth.
Yeah, Darth's been streaming for years. I started actually streaming on YouTube, and then kind of slowly,
That's right.
And then after a month or two, kind of slowly made my way over to Twitch because a lot of people were saying I should, but.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, it was a lot of fun because the 4 of us kind of fell through the process of being the main 4 content providers for one game, which was a raid. At the time, I kind of fell into being more the like in-game guy, the guy that did like the clan boss strategies, I feel like. And then you were more like character guides and like spreadsheets and stuff. And, how to not lose too much money on raid, whereas I was like mega whale mode all the time. Stu would do stuff like he'd do like Spider 20 with all rares.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, dude, he's killed a week of your life trying to figure that out, you know. Good for you, but you know. And then Darth would do what Darth does, man. I mean, he would, you know, he'd play piano and make people laugh and talk about whale pods, and you know, it was cool because all four of us became like really good friends, you know, and it was wild. Like we'd have like Plarium, like they normally do. They'd pay other content producers to come in. They would never pay us, but they'd pay other people to show up, you know.
Yeah.
And they'd come in and be like, man, you guys have like an awesome community. Like, too bad we don't like your game, because four of you are like awesome. Because we'd always be like, hey, like if you're part of the community now, like welcome, you know, what can we do to help, you know? And, you know, it was a really good group. And, you know, so basically I was, you know, active content creator all the way up until I want to say November, December.
Yeah.
And at which point I pulled out. It was interesting for me. I actually I quit my last job mainly because of the travel, and I do mergers and acquisitions for a living. And I was honestly going to go full-time YouTube. I was talking to, I think, to you about it a little bit. I was talking to Darth. I was talking to Stu. And I was on Twitch every night, you know, in the gym. And I was waking up, recording a video, going to the gym, doing Twitch, you know. And right before I said, okay, I'm going to go full-time now, I made like 3 phone calls to, you know, companies that I developed relationships with in my career. And all 3 of them turned into job offers. And one of them was in private equity, which is something I really wanted to do for a super long time. And, you know, I decided to take that, and the workload, all that stuff just really stacked up. And at one point I kind of had to make a decision to put, you know, being a content producer like on hold for a little while. And yeah, luckily the COVID virus, man, for all the you know, the you know, frustration it caused me, I actually got the virus for a while. You know, it's kind of brought me to a point where I can get in front of a computer again for, you know, a couple days in a row and record some stuff. So it's been a little bit of a silver lining in it for me, to be honest. So
before we touch on getting the virus, because it's interesting to talk to somebody who had it. Are you in a spot where you're going to be able to be consistent now and play more and do content and all that stuff?
I think so. You know, it's really tough because it's so dependent on the virus right now. You know, so like, for instance, in Georgia, you know, the governor basically said today that they're going to reopen businesses. So my company has businesses in 4 states right now, and a corporate headquarters in a 5th state. So I don't know. I mean, they may call me up on Friday and say, you need to be back up here, you know, next week. What I can say is, like, I'm at that point now where, like, enough is enough. Like, I've gone without doing content, and I've tried to come back a little bit, like once or twice, you know, but like, you know, I have my streaming rig sitting here, obviously, because we're able to do this call, and like, it's going with me wherever I go next, you know, like that's pretty much where I'm at with it. Because, you know, I had to live in like temporary housing for a period of time in Philadelphia, and I still may end up having to move to Philadelphia. I'm based out of Charlotte right now, so it's easy for me to get on airplanes and stuff because Charlotte's a hub for American Airlines. But at the end of the day, man, what I can say is, you know, where in the beginning I took a break from being a content creator because I just want to focus on my career. Now I'm kind of going, I want to do both, you know, so how do I make that happen? You know, and so I'm much more motivated right now to try to find ways to make that happen. And so the short answer is I should be, you know, I should be here until June 1st, but you may see me like disappear for a week. Hopefully that's not the case. But if that were to happen, it's because like I'm kind of moving into that next spot and getting ready, you know, kind of getting myself set up to, you know, to do more of whatever it is I'm going to end up doing. So. Okay.
Cool. That's good to hear. And what was your experience getting the virus? Do you know how you got it, and what was it like to have it? And obviously you seem to be doing well now, so that's thankful.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it was. So I was in Las Vegas. I work in the mining industry mostly with private equity, and so I went to Las Vegas. They have an expo they do annually or not annually. I'm sorry, they do like once every 3 years for mining companies and construction and stuff like that. And I think it's the second largest expo that they do, and we went. It was not my choice to go. I put up a fit about going the entire time because we were the only materials producer to go. So I really didn't see the point in going, but I went, and I think we went there with like 10 people, and 2 of us got the virus. So basically, there was an article while I was still at the Wynn Hotel saying that there was a case contracted of corona, and whoever had the corona was in the gym constantly. And at that point in time, I was kind of like, well, that's it for me. I was in a gym like every day, and it's a tiny little gym. So I was kind of like,
it was like kind of an apartment complex gym or something?
Yeah, it was just like that. So I was kind of like, there's very little chance that I'm not a carrier, and then while standing in the Las Vegas airport, I found out that there was an active case that had just left the Las Vegas airport. And I was like, and then actually later on, I found out that the weekend before, when I was in Philadelphia, there was a person on my floor in my office on the day I was in there that also had a case. So it could be from either of those 3, but I was basically in 3 places where there was a confirmed person with a confirmed case, and likely, was there at the same time. I really don't know. I don't know who patient 0 was for me, but it was somebody that was in those places. And so as soon as I left Vegas, I had a conversation with my colleagues, and I kind of just said, I'm not going home because I'm very likely to be a carrier, and we don't know enough about this virus, and it's fatal. At least in some cases, it's fatal. So at that point, I flew to Philadelphia, and when I got to Philadelphia, basically I found out while I was buying groceries that the entire city was shutting down at 6 p.m. and only pharmacies and grocery stores were going to be open after that. And honestly, dude, like, it was a real panic moment for me. And I say it to be funny, but it's actually a thought that was in my head. But I literally said out loud to myself, like, I remember the episode of Walking Dead where, like, Rick gets stuck in a high-rise building in Atlanta.
Yep.
I don't want to be in a high-rise building in the middle of the apocalypse. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm getting out of this place. And then, like, I went to Enterprise to rent a car. I got a car, and I drove to Florida. And everybody I knew thought I was crazy for driving to Florida. I drove overnight. I wore gloves. I wore a mask. I was, like, drenching everything in hand sanitizer that I touched, But I was like, I didn't really want to be in a foreign city. And then I'm pretty country at the end of the day, especially with regards to, like, a big metro area like Philadelphia. So I really didn't want to, like, expose myself, or be in an area where, like, I was going to struggle a little bit, to even figure out, like, where to get stuff. And whereas I went somewhere in Florida that I had spent a lot of time at, it was actually my parents' lake house. So, I mean, I knew where everything was. I knew people around there. I had folks I could call if I needed something. It made more sense,
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I went to the store like on a Friday at like 1 in the afternoon, like when it's typically slow, and the parking lot was just packed, and I was like, "What's going on?" And then I go in the store, and everybody's got carts full of toilet paper and like cans of soup and rice, and I'm like, "What is happening right now?" And that's when it all kind of hit the fan and really started hitting the mainstream news. It was probably the same day or something that you were experiencing that.
It was pretty shocking, man. It happened pretty quick, and then even like maybe a big shocker for me was in Florida, they were rationing food. So like in Florida, if you went to like Publix, like the main grocery store, you could only buy like 1 thing of meat per day.
Yep.
Or you could only buy 1 gallon of water. And like that part, oh, sorry, my bad.
Sorry, I could edit it. We're good. We're good.
The bad part about rationing water and rationing eggs and rationing meat was like you essentially had to either order from Instacart every day or you had to go to the store every day, and thus increasing your exposure. And I'm over here with the virus, so I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't want to go anywhere. So I'm ordering from Instant Cart every day with like a drop off at my door, comment. And it's like, it was just, it was weird, I remember the one time I actually like went to Publix while I was in Florida. I was kind of shocked, because like the shelves were empty. And I had the same experience when I was in Philly. I went to a grocery store, the shelves were all empty, but it was just weird to see all these signs up, like one per person, one per family. And
Yep. At my grocery store in my neighborhood,
hold on 1 second.
That's all right.
On the middle of we're recording that, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're
good.
live.
No, just we're recording. So, can you just close the door? Thanks. All right, my bad.
That's all good. It's all good. But no, at the grocery store in my neighborhood, they have like roped off the aisles to go in one direction so that people aren't walking by each other. And then there's always signs on everything like 1 loaf of bread allowed, or like, everything's like got a max on it, and the aisles are all like directed so people aren't walking by. Yeah, it's definitely a wild time. And you haven't really dove into your experience, like how sick did you get and all that?
Oh yeah. So pretty sick, man. So the symptoms I had, I lost my sense of smell and taste pretty early on. Driving to Florida, I was like coughing up pretty bad, and so I knew at that point that it being like a respiratory illness. I knew that whatever I had was going on was respiratory, and thus it probably was COVID. The worst, my symptoms worst. I mean, I didn't have a thermometer that was working, so I really didn't know if I had a fever and how bad it was. I had like significant body aches, that come along with the fever, and sort of like that debilitating, like, unwellness that comes along with a fever. So, I mean, I was like definitely bedridden and felt awful, but at the same time, like, I could sit there and like have a normal conversation with someone. I could like make work phone calls. I could get on conference calls. So I think like I talked to 2 doctors over the phone. Based off of that, they felt like, I wasn't a candidate for testing, even though I had all the symptoms. And I mean, I even had one of the doctors say like, look, I mean, I can't say for sure, but it sounds like you have it. I mean, there's factors that are telling me that it's not the flu. It's most likely COVID, but we're not going to send you to get a test done because we only have 2,000 tests at your local testing area, and we're holding those for people that can't even sit here and have a conversation, that have such debilitating symptoms that they're probably going to need to be in the hospital and on a respirator pretty soon. And both doctors kind of left me with like the thought that, look, if you don't need to go to the hospital, then just quarantine yourself, which I was already doing. But the worst symptom I had, it was a scary one, but at the end for about a week, I was coughing up blood. That went on for right about a week. And honestly, when that happened, I did call the doctors back like 2 times, and I was like, dude, like, I'm coughing up a lot of blood, And they were like, well, can you breathe? And be like, yeah, I can breathe. And then I found out my colleague that got it, his shortness of breath was so bad that like he couldn't even stand up. He would just stay laying down all day,
Wow.
But if he even just stood up, he'd feel like completely out of breath, and he couldn't catch his breath. It's like he went for a sprint or something. It's like, I didn't have that. There was one point where like I like tried to just like stretch out, and like I just like bent over, touch my toes kind of thing. And when I came up from it, I was bad out of breath, and I was like, ooh, like that's not normal,
Like you just got done with a set or something, like.
Yeah. And I mean, I was just kind of, starting to do a warm up, like I was going to stretch or something. I came up from it like, whoa, like that's not good. And then the first workout I did after like my symptoms subsided, was funny because like I remember at one point in the workout, like I was doing like jump squats or something, and like I actually like tasted metal, and like I couldn't breathe normally for like 2 hours. Like my breathing was shot, So like recovering from it took a lot of time too, a lot of time.
Wow, yeah, that's insane. And did anybody else around you get it or anything? No. Okay.
No. I was like full. I mean, that was the hardest part. Was like I quarantined really hard. Like I was in a condo by myself in Lake Placid, and like I didn't go outside. Basically I'd walk like I had to walk my trash bag up to the top of a hill, and I wear gloves and a mask and do that like every couple of days, and that's the most outside exposure I got. I had everything delivered that I needed and dropped off like. So I quarantined for like 3 weeks without talking to anyone like in person, So that was tough, like really tough.
Oh, so the symptoms were bad. You said like for 10 days or something, or like a week.
The symptoms with COVID are weird, man. At least in my experience, there were bad days, but then you might have a good couple hours, you might have a good day. It's not like a normal cold. Like the symptoms would just all of a sudden, like you'd have like 3 days that were fine, and then all of a sudden, like you'd have really bad symptoms again.
Huh.
So it was bizarre. But I had symptoms on and off for about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and the whole time I was coughing up. I mean, for almost maybe like 3.5 weeks, I was coughing up. So I know that's a lot longer than you're supposed to cough up mucus. But
I'm having to. I keep looking down at my phone. I'm having to write down all the timestamps of when you cuss, so I can, go back and edit them.
Oh, my bad.
It's all good. It's all good.
Creating work for you, man.
That's right. No, you're good. You're good. I just don't want people to think I'm like that disrespectful interviewer that like sits here just texting on their phone while. Because there's nothing worse than that when someone's talking and you're sitting there texting.
No, I understand. It's just because of my lack of a filter.
That's right. So knock it off. No, I'm kidding. Well, then, no, that's crazy, and I don't want to keep you too long. Is there anything you want to talk about, like raid-wise, your first impression coming back or anything before I let you go, or?
Towards the end of making videos, I think my thing kind of became like rant videos,
As we all did.
And, yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, like, I really like Raid at the end of the day. It's a great game. Luckily, I started playing Epic 7 and 7 Deadly Sins, so I'll probably do some content on those. I might do some content on Raid. I'm going to have to, it's a tough one, because part of me is somewhat interested to be back on the game. And then, we went through it on, I streamed yesterday, and you jumped on there, and I was like, so what's changed in the game? And, basically you're like, yeah, nothing's changed. And it's kind of like, and then, I went and played through it, and I was like, man, we have a new inventory organizing system. Awesome. That's, great news. Appreciate that, Plarium. But, I mean, it's an amazing community full of people. I'm sure I can find some stuff to do some videos on. I mean, Hell Hades and Stu make like 2 videos a day. So I'll just figure out what these guys talk about for, hours on end each day and try to do something like that. Maybe, I don't know. But my thing when I did videos was, in-game content, and that hasn't changed. So, hey, maybe I can get right back in it and, just redo some videos, and they'll still be relevant 8 months later.
I mean, you were a really good player when you were active. I'm sure you'll pick it up quick.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like too much has changed. That the platinum PvP, it didn't interest me too much when it came out. But it seems like the meta has shifted a little bit. So I'm interested to kind of see what that's like and explore that a little bit. But when I was playing it, Torment was the meta, and that was just like a slow, tedious, boring sort of fight style, Whereas I like the nuking strategies a lot more. I did videos on Ithos nukes and one-shot comps and stuff like that. That was really more my thing. So if that's back in vogue at all, I'll probably find my way and do something like that pretty quick. So
cool. Okay. Well, that kind of covers everything I wanted to discuss with you. So I guess it's always fun catching up with you, and thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, you bet. All right, and links to Kizzle stuff will be down in the video description, so definitely check him out. Is there anything you want to shout out, like what you're going to be doing on stream or anything like that, or? Yeah,
I'll be on stream kind of just, I thought about maybe, naming my streams Viking Finds Video Games on computer. It's just going to be a chill session where I'm trying to figure out how stuff works for a while. you know. After a bit, I'll probably get into some strategy and whatnot, you know. But for now, I'm probably gonna open up with some Raid, but I'll also do some Epic 7 and some 7 Deadly Sins. That'll be the mainstream games. And then I don't think I'll have a theme on stream for a bit, just like hanging out and talking trash and, you know, stuff like that. So.
All right, cool. Well, thanks again, brother. Take it easy.
Yeah, man. You too, bro.
All right, see ya.
All right.
Alrighty, that's going to do it for Chosen's Corner episode 9 featuring Kizzle, and definitely check out his stuff. I will link to his channel and stream and all that down in the vid description, so go check him out. He's a cool guy and he puts out good content, so definitely take a look at his stuff. And again, a huge shout out to him for taking the time to sit down and chat with me today. I had a lot of fun kind of chatting with him and just kind of shooting the breeze. So yeah, as always, stay safe out there, and thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.